Hi, welcome to Lesson 8. This is it, the last lesson of this course. So congratulations, first of all, on making it to the end, and I'm hopeful, certainly, that you have learned a few things along the way and that this has been beneficial for you. We are at the end, we have one project left, and so this short video will take you through that and hopefully answer any last-minute questions you might have. The final project is, of course, the year-long professional development plan, and I know that you are well on your way to having this done, and you are all at different stages of where you're at with this. So I'll just go through some broad reminders just in case you have any questions as you're going through this. A quick reminder that the purpose of the professional development plan is for you to actually think about what professional development would look like over the span of one academic year. And so, big picture, that's what this is about. You need to be able to do that as you move forward as a literacy leader. Part one you've already done. That was where you created your needs assessment and administered it to your stakeholders. You got the data from that and used that data to create those goals that are guiding your plan. Part two is also a portion of this that you have completed, at least part of it, where you looked at those goals and figured out how am I going to know whether or not my stakeholders have actually met these goals. And the reason that I wanted for us to think about that evaluation and assessment early on is we need to know how we're going to define success. So when you look back at the end of this plan, and let's say if you're going September to May, when you get to the last professional development time in May, how are you going to know whether or not that this has been successful? And not only at the end, but what are you doing along the way to make sure that your goals are being met, that your stakeholder needs are being met, and how can you plan to make changes along the way if things aren't working? So that really is part two. And like I said, I know you've at least done part of that and have been thinking about that evaluation piece. Part three is really the bulk of the actual plan, and this is where you think about what that plan looks like. I provided a month-to-month matrix. If that way of planning works for you, great. If it doesn't, you don't have to use that. But what you need to do is think about those goals. What are you going to do to meet those goals in an ongoing fashion? What are you going to do in September or August? What are you going to do in November, December? How are you going to align this over a year to make sure that those goals are met? And then how are you going to do that at each professional development session when you meet each month? What are you going to have your stakeholders do in between times that you meet? Are you going to have them do anything online or any meetings between your actual sessions? What resources are you going to use? What will they actually be doing? What will they be reading? What will they be working on? You need to have support, research to support all of those decisions that you're making. You need to identify specifically who you're working with and what resources you're going to need. So part of that is creating a budget. And the budgeting process may be something that you're not familiar with on a professional level. You maybe haven't had to do this before. But what you need to think about is if you are going to have books that you want your teachers or your stakeholder group to be reading, how much do they cost? How much are you going to budget for that? If you're going to have coffee and donuts and sandwiches at your face-to-face meetings, what does that cost for 30 people? If you're going to go to a restaurant, what is that going to cost? All of those items have to be accounted for because when you bring your professional development plan to an administrator, they're going to ask you for a budget. So this is an opportunity for you to think about all of those things that go into having your professional development be successful. As you're working through your professional development plan, pull out the rubric, take a look at that, make sure that you are addressing all of the components that are part of the rubric. A couple of you have asked about the way that they're separated in Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Do those have to be separate pieces or can they all be together? It doesn't matter at all to me. Part 2, that assessment and evaluation piece, if that's at the end of it, that's totally fine with me. Just use that rubric to make sure that you are addressing all of the components that are necessary. These are the headings from the major components needed that are in the rubric. And as you can see, the needs assessment, the assessment and progress monitoring portion, you've already dealt with those in many cases. But then that research-based professional development, make sure that your resources are documented, that you have a bibliography, that they are relevant, that you're using best practices in planning this professional development. You need to go back and revisit those adult learning characteristics and constructivist teaching principles and make sure that you are following best practice when working with adult learners. So just do a double check with yourself to make sure that you have those pieces in place. For instance, if you have people sitting for 2 hours at a time, that's probably not going to be the most effective way of reaching them. And then those final two are just, again, the stakeholders and budget, identifying who you're working with and what those costs are going to include. And finally, some sort of month-by-month planning piece. That can be an outline, it can be in that table form I sent, whatever works for you, however you want to think about that is fine, but just a visual way for me to see what's happening at each stage of that. I'm very excited to see your professional development plans. I've spoken with a few of you just as questions have come up, and I am so impressed with what I have heard that you are working on and what I have seen in your in the goals that you've set. I'm proud of the work you're doing. In most cases, it feels like this is not just a hoop that you're jumping through, but you're planning for professional development that you will actually use somewhere in the future. So I hope that it feels meaningful to you, because I think there are really two big pieces of this. It's the process of planning this in an ongoing manner, and then it's the content, the expertise that you're going to be sharing. So I hope that feels good for you. From my end, I'm really excited about the work that you're doing. If you have any questions as you're working through this, or any other questions as you're finishing things up, please don't hesitate to contact me. I did send out a reminder to go in and double check your blog posts to make sure that you have what you need. You're welcome to add additional things. If something got left by the wayside, please go ahead and add that now. That's no trouble at all. And finally, I just want to thank you for a really wonderful semester. I have enjoyed working with all of you. Again, I've been so impressed by what you have shared. Your blogs are amazing, and I have bragged about them in many settings on campus because I couldn't be prouder of the work that you have done. And my favorite blogs were always the choice blogs, because it was interesting for me to see what's important to you right now, what's happening specific to your school or your area of expertise that you want to know more about or you want to share more about. So thank you for your willingness to really embrace that blog idea. I know for many of you it was new and maybe a little scary, but it's awesome. I love it. Thank you again for a wonderful semester. I know we'll be in touch, but I just wanted to say thank you.